Well, I guess in related news, we can start rolling through.
Let's go.
Um, so Disney decided that they are no longer going to make Blu-rays or physical media, and they are outsourcing their DVD slash Blu-ray business to Sony. So Sony will be manufacturing the Disney DVDs and Blu-rays. Um, that they don't really say specifically when they're taking over, as far as I know, right? But the deal's made. Sony's taking over. I'm not gonna play a Disney What Are You Doing, because I think this is actually a smart-ish move on their behalf, and I'm gonna tell you
Sure.
why. Um, as as the business rolls down, right? As sales for physical media slow down, which they are, again, they could pick up again based on information numbers that are out there, right? Like we were seeing it in music, where physical media has made a resurgence. um, some people are expecting movies to make sort of like that same uh, resurgence, and we've seen it in gaming too, where a lot of people now are saying, "Hey, I'm just gonna buy my game because my physical game." Although, like on Xbox, you buy your game and you still gotta download the game. Like they just sell you blank
Yeah.
disc basically with a license file. So um, I think it's smart in Disney's behalf, because you don't have to worry about the manufacturing of this discs anymore, right? And I
Right.
think you're handling to a much better manufacturer of discs. Um, Disney Blu-rays specifically. Well, I want to say the Blu-rays and the 4K Blu-rays, like anything Blu-ray that Disney's done, has not been great. Um, I don't recall a standout Blu-ray like, oh, you gotta buy this Disney Blu-ray because this is the one that's gonna blow your socks off, right? Um, I've said it. I think I mentioned it on the podcast before, and I've talked to you about it. I've had Disney Blu-rays that have come out defective. I have to go back to the store and get them replaced.
Yeah.
I can't return it because they won't give me my money back, right? Because it's physical media, but I can exchange it for the same title if that's the case. So I've had two instances at least that I've had to take a Disney movie back to the store because it's defective, starts skipping, what sounds bad, whatever, right? Um, Sony, on the other hand, right? They make trash movies like Madame Web, but their manufacturing of physical
Yes.
media is on point,
Yes.
and they're very high quality. The Spider-Man movies, the and when I'm talking about the Spider-Man movies, I'm talking about like Spider-Verse are incredible on Blu-ray, and the MCU Spider-Man movies are great. Those are done by Sony.
Yeah.
um Going back to, like, even back to the beginning, like Casino Royale, like that's like an OG Blu-ray disc that I still have, and it still looks and sounds phenomenal. So I think this is the right move. There's no like real details about this, but I think it's a big deal. I think it's a good change. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm hyped for this. I think first of all, my thought was we know signs of the times, like physical media unfortunately is going away. Even though I'm someone who hold on to it, like we know it's not really gonna last that long. So at least they didn't just kill it, they're just outsourcing it, really.
Right.
But we can still read the writing on the wall. Like eventually they'll just completely stop manufacturing all in all. Even outsource. And look, let's face it, like Disney Plus has been the place for most people to expect to get all of their Disney movies. It's been the place where, whether it's the Marvels or Elementals or like any of the new Disney films that come out, like Wish now coming up, people are gonna look forward to that on there. Like that's been the home of Disney movies. And they don't really tend to treat it as a place where they remove films, at least yet. I know that there have been some things removed from Disney Plus,
Yep.
but for the most part, from their film side, they tend to leave everything on there, which is pretty huge. Like Netflix is big on like removing stuff, even
They
sometimes
got
originals.
contracts, so they gotta move stuff around. Yeah,
Right. Like Disney's pretty good about keeping all their stuff on Disney Plus.
yeah,
Now, with Sony making and putting out stuff, like you said it, they're known for just having absolute success in like their hardware and just and their any of their tech just as a whole. Like even their films, I've joked, I'm like, if a Sony film, it might be bad, but it's gonna look darn good.
right.
Like that's there's no way we're like, Uncharted the movie wasn't that great, but it looked real
It looks and
good.
it sounds really good. Yep.
Sounds like they're not gonna mess that up. I would say the same thing about Madame Web. Like you didn't hear me complaining that it looked bad. Most of the complaints even online is that it actually looks bad. It's just wooden script and stuff like that, right? But like I would like to see them re-release, and you and I talked about this before, some other films that have already been released by them, like and like be making it like a clear thing, like, hey, we're gonna have a 4K version of this or a re-release of this film that it is really a visual spectacle. Thinking like
Right.
Star Wars films. For me, I think of films like Avatar. Like if you said like, oh, we're gonna re-release Avatar, like
Oh, the
on
OG, yeah, the
Sony,
first one,
the OG,
yeah,
yeah, like in
yeah, yeah.
4K or something like that.
Right.
That could be huge, because that it's gonna
Well,
probably
whatever the
come out
next
really
Avatar
special.
is gonna come out, and it's like they may not re-release it, right? But whatever the
Sure.
next one is, yeah, it may sure be on this thing. Um, yeah, and then I do, and I told you it's like, oh, dude, if they do Star Wars, I'll buy it because I've been really hesitant on buying those 4K Star Wars
Oh
movies,
yeah,
and it's just because of Disney's like subpar quality and when it comes to DVDs. So yeah, it's very strange. Like even back in the day, like when the Star Wars trilogy came out on DVD, that was iffy. That was Fox back then,
yeah,
but it was still iffy. But when the Blu-rays came out, the Blu-rays were pretty good. So yeah, it's very interesting. Very very interesting bit of news. Um, I think that there's a possibility that we'll see a resurgence with movies, and it's probably due to there's just too many streaming services. Um, On-demand quality is not great.
mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of people invested on home theaters during lockdown, so to take full advantage of those home theaters, you gotta have your
Yeah,
discs, right? Even if you don't have a standalone player, playing it on a PS5 or an Xbox,
yeah,
that's still better than just streaming the movie. So
totally.
I could see this being a sort of a resurgence. With gaming, it's a little bit tougher, right? Because of movies just being what they are, and they are in the disc, and just play them. That it is what it is, right? But with gaming, when you have so many moving parts and updates and patches and add-ons and all this, right? It's a lot more involved. So I don't see this type of resurgence being necessarily applicable to gaming, but at least to movies, I do see where where this could take off. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and when you go talk to like we'll go back to going back to music, right? It's like the like CD sales are up. It's weird. Like even CDs are coming back, and it's not even like hipsters buying vinyl anymore. It's like even
no.
CDs
Well,
are getting back. So
the Y2K, like even just style and some of the stuff is also coming back too. So that probably helps. I mean, you
yeah,
see the youth walking around with wired headphones. It's like, hey, look at
right.
that.
Walkmans, and dude, one of
Yep,
one of these days I'm gonna show up to the office with my Discman. It's like I still have it.
that's awesome.
Dude, it's funny because my wife was cleaning her drawer in the like her trash drawer. Like we all have a trash drawer, right? So I cleaned mine a few weeks ago. It's just like I should do that too. So last weekend she cleaned it and she comes over and was like, "Oh, look what I found." And it was a Sony MP3 player, Walkman.
Wow,
Yeah, from back in the day. So those things
look
were
at
really
that.
good. Like they still sell those. Like the Sony still makes the Walkman. They're like $1,000, dude, because they're like uncompressed audio and all this stuff, and they run Android. So Apple, they don't make their iPod anymore, so they basically own the market now when it comes to MP3. That you see it like freaking Kojima posts
Totally.
like pictures from his Walkman. He doesn't use his phone for music. Look, he's a music snob, so every time he posts a picture of I'm listening to this, it's his Walkman. So it's crazy. Uh, yeah, man, it's an interesting time. So we'll see. There's really no details, but if anything comes out, we'll surely update.